Folks, something big is brewing, and it's headed our way. A major storm is about to slam the United States. And here's the thing, it could be the first time in weeks we've seen heavy snow and severe weather tied to the same storm. Now, this is a classic coast-to-coast system. Friends, over 8 feet of snow out west, tornadoes down south. Two very different impacts. And it all starts this week. Stick with me for the next few minutes, because I'm going to show you exactly what you need to know and what to do about it. Now, let me paint the picture for you here. It all starts in the western states, where an atmospheric river, that's basically a river of moisture in the sky, is going to dump massive amounts of snow over the next week. As this storm moves east, here's what happens. It's going to tap into a sharp temperature contrast. Arctic air mixing with warm, moist air from the Gulf. That creates the perfect environment for this thing to really intensify. And by Saturday, that's Valentine's Day, folks, this storm could pose a significant threat across the South. We're talking widespread, severe weather, damaging winds, and yes, even the chance of tornadoes. You know, how this storm develops could really shatter plans for Valentine's weekend. So let's break it all down. Now, we have a lot to cover. So let me start with the big picture. Right now, there's a large, low-pressure system near the Great Lakes. This is going to dump snow today across the Northeast, especially Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. On the other side of the country, off the coast of California, another low-pressure system is developing. This one's bringing mountainous snow to California, Nevada, Utah, and even Colorado. And here's something important. These states desperately need it. Many of these locations have hardly seen any snow this winter. Meanwhile, down in the southern plains, we've got a large ridge. That's kept things very warm for the time being. Now, as we head into late Wednesday and Thursday, this large storm system is going to make its way toward the Rockies. By Friday and Saturday, it crosses over into the southern plains. And folks, this is going to be an intense system. Saturday and Sunday, from Texas and Oklahoma, back into Alabama and Georgia, damaging winds, maybe a few tornadoes throughout. Valentine's weekend. By Sunday into Monday, that storm makes its way into the southeast. Rain continues. Maybe some snowfall in the mid-Atlantic and northeast. And here's the thing. Behind this storm system, we'll likely see another large storm next week across the West Coast. That could bring big impacts to the northern plains and Midwest. Now, let me tell you about something really remarkable. We're dealing with one of the warmest stretches of weather we've seen so far this winter. Kansas City was near 72 degrees yesterday. That's warmer than most of Florida, if you can believe it. We're talking about an unbelievable heat wave across the Great Plains, but that's coming to an end. A cold front moved through Kansas and Missouri this morning. Still, temperatures are running well above average. Kansas City is still about 15 degrees above average today. Even back in the southeast, very warm for this time of year. By Wednesday and Thursday, cold air becomes more dominant in the Midwest and Northeast. Most areas only about 5 to 10 degrees below average. Nothing too crazy for this time of year, really. By Thursday and Friday, warm air continues building across the Great Plains, while cold temps continue up north. Saturday and Sunday, we're watching for severe weather across the southern plains and southeast. Damaging winds, tornadoes possible with abnormally warm weather. Continuing through Valentine's weekend. Now, if winter weather is your thing, you're not going to be happy, because we're likely to see even more record-breaking heat as we go into next week, especially across the northern plains and Midwest. Some areas could be as much as 40 degrees above average. The computer models are showing an unbelievable heat wave. By Tuesday next week, 45 degrees above average. We're talking 70s as far north as Minnesota. That would be absolutely crazy, folks. Now, this is still about 7 days away. So things could change. But trends continue to look like it's going to be very warm. Over the next 7 days, temperatures remarkably warm across most areas. Little Rock, Arkansas, in the mid 70s today. Chicago in the upper 30s and low 40s. Cold air arrives in the Northeast and Great Lakes. Wednesday and Thursday. Most areas right around normal. But here's where things get really crazy. Going into the weekend. And next week, very warm along the Gulf Coast, even up into Minnesota. Saturday afternoon could be in the mid to upper 50s and low 60s in Iowa and Minnesota. But that's not even the craziest part. By Monday and Tuesday next week, we could go well into the 60s across the northern plains and Midwest. Tuesday looks to be the warmest day we've seen in a long time. Some locations in southwest Minnesota could reach the 70s. And with that upcoming storm, next week, if we see temps this warm, severe weather wouldn't be impossible up in Nebraska and Iowa. We need to monitor this very closely. There could be some changes by gaze. That's not impossible, but this would be nothing short of historic. Now let's talk more about these upcoming storm systems. Let me start with what's happening today in the Northeast. Right now, a large low pressure system just north of Michigan. This is an Alberta Clipper. These have been pretty common this winter. This one's going to dump plenty of snowfall later this afternoon into the evening. It begins in New York later today, then spreads across New England tonight. Moderate to heavy snowfall all evening and overnight. Snowfall rates right around 1 inch per hour, maybe 1.5 inches in some of the heavier bands. By Wednesday morning, most heavy snow moves offshore. Light snow continues from Pennsylvania into northern Maine. During Wednesday, even into early Thursday. Now, while that's happening, we have a very large storm impacting the West Coast, California and Nevada. Mostly rain from San Francisco to San Diego. But we're watching for a lot of snowfall. Basically a winter storm west. And along the Rockies. Great news for skiers, folks. We're expecting a ton of snow over the next week or so. A powerful atmospheric river continues dumping heavy snow Wednesday, Thursday, and into next week. Now, you might be wondering, why is this so important? Well, this is a large area of moisture. Lots of snow and rain from Colorado back to California. But that excess moisture eventually moves over Arizona and New Mexico late Thursday into early Friday. Might not look like much Friday afternoon and evening, but we'll have scattered showers, even some snow. As far south as eastern Arizona, by late Friday and early Saturday, that's when we're expecting an intense storm system to develop across the southern plains, mainly developing over Oklahoma, Texas, and the Mississippi Valley. Saturday morning, a large area of moderate to heavy rainfall from Tennessee back into Texas. By afternoon, instability grows and moisture comes out of the Gulf. This creates a pretty primed environment on Saturday for at least scattered, maybe even numerous severe storms from Dallas, Fort Worth, and Tulsa back toward Memphis, damaging winds and tornadoes. Possible, especially since we should have day, a good amount of wind shear. By Saturday evening, lots of storm activity from Missouri to Louisiana, damaging winds and tornado risk continue. Then overnight into Sunday morning, this storm moves into the southeast. Severe weather may continue Sunday in Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida. Keep in mind, many of these areas saw ice and snow just over the last 2 weeks. Now we're transitioning into a severe weather threat. This might be the first legitimate threat of significant severe weather across the southern plains and southeast this winter. One thing we need to watch, any wintry precipitation in the mid-Atlantic and northeast. Sunday into early Monday, the latest models show very minimal wintry precipitation right now in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Maybe a little freezing rain or drizzle maybe a bit of snow on the northern side of the storm. But for now, doesn't appear likely. We'll see a whole lot, if any. As we go into next week, things get more uncertain. But I do think the West Coast and higher elevations west of the Rockies are going to get hammered. Lots of rain and snow, all part of a growing risk of an atmospheric river event. All that energy and moisture surges over the Rockies and creates big storms next week across the United States. Right now, the European and American models indicate some sort of storm system in the northern tier and back into the Midwest. Too uncertain for details right now, but I think we'll see at least 2, maybe even 3 large storms between February 16th all the way to February 25th, about a 10-day period where 2 or 3 storms will be on the table. Those should be much larger than what we've been seeing recently. Now, let me give you the snowfall totals to expect over the next few days. Widespread 3 to 6 inches of snow from Buffalo, New York to Boston and northern Maine. Some locations, especially eastern Maine, picking up closer to 6 to 10 inches. This goes on top of upwards of a foot of snow still on the ground all across New England. Good news if you like snowfall, bad news if you don't want to shovel. That's on your bucket list for the rest of this week. Back along the West Coast, unbelievable amounts of snow. Over the next week or so, between now and February 20th, we're expecting feet of snowfall. In the Sierra Nevada, an unbelievable amount. Upwards of 100 to 150 inches of snow across the Sierra Nevada this week and next week. Great news for skiers, even better for areas that desperately need water. We're at record low snowfall in Colorado and Utah this winter. This will definitely help over the next week or two. All right, folks, let me wrap this up for you. 3 key things to remember. First, if you're out west, expect massive snow. Great for water supplies, great for skiing. Second, if you're in the southern plains or southeast, stay weather aware this weekend. Valentine's Day could bring severe weather with it. And third, next week looks historically warm across the northern tier. We're talking 70s in Minnesota. That could set the stage for more and storms down the road. Keep checking back because this pattern looks active. For the next couple of weeks, more storms are likely on the way, and I'll be here to walk you through each one. Stay safe out there, folks. Take care of yourselves and your neighbors this weekend. We'll talk again real soon.